Hey guys, so today I'm back with another unsolved missing persons case. This one is so frustrating and it's about the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. She went missing on the 22nd of March in 2011 from a Disney cruise ship, and she basically disappeared without a single trace. The police work in this case was terrible, and basically this, in combination with a few other factors, has really led to the reason why I believe that this case has never been solved. When I was researching this case, I found a ton of information, so this video may be a bit longer than usual, so let's get straight into the details. First up, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background into Rebecca's life. Rebecca was born in Chester, England on the 11th of March 1987. For most of her life, she lived in Chester with her two parents, Mike and Anne Maria, her sister Rachel, and also her two foster brothers. So there was a total of 6 in the family. She went and graduated from a Catholic high school, and when she was in her teenage years, she decided to join the British Army Cadets. After graduating from high school, Rebecca then decided to go to Plymouth University in Exeter to study sports science. She also did some volunteer work for the cadets before furthering her education at Liverpool Hope University. Here she studied youth studies, and this led her to teaching children's sports at Camp America, which was located in Maine. In June of 2010, Rebecca travelled to London to attend an interview for a job position on a Disney cruise ship. Apparently there was hundreds of people attending these interviews, and Rebecca actually got chosen for the position because of her outgoing personality. And then she had to go to do some extra training at a Disney theme park in Florida. After the training was complete, she spent 4 months working on the cruise ship, which was traveling to and from the Bahamas. On the cruise ship, she was employed as a youth counselor, and I think she was organizing children's events and things that they could do while they were on the cruise ship. Rebecca then decided that she would return home for 2 months so that she could spend some quality time with family and friends. When she came back to work, she was positioned on a new ship, and this ship was called the Disney Wonder, and it was based in the Los Angeles port. This cruise ship traveled through the Mexican Riviera and then also through the Panama Canal. While Rebecca was working on the cruise ship, her grandfather actually passed away, so she had to return home to Chester for 2 weeks to attend the funeral and then spend some quality time with her family. So this is where the story actually starts. Rebecca returned back to work after the 2 weeks off, and she continued working as a youth counselor. She was keeping in regular contact with her family and friends, and she would normally talk to them via either Facebook or Skype, as she was in a different country and this was the easiest way to contact them. 6 weeks then went by and everything was still normal, and she was keeping in contact with her family as per usual. It was the 21st of March 2011, and the cruise ship had left its port in Los Angeles in order to begin its journey. On this day, Rebecca sent a message to her parents on Facebook saying that she would be calling them the next day. Little did Rebecca or her parents know, but this message would actually be the last message that she would ever send to them. Also, I forgot to mention, but Rebecca was 24 years old at the time of her disappearance. So the cruise ship was traveling along the Pacific coast of Mexico on the morning of the 22nd of March 2011, when unfortunately Rebecca disappeared. Pretty much she just vanished into thin air. Her parents obviously didn't realize at the time that she was missing, but when she never called after her message, her parents began to grow concerned, but they thought that she must have just got caught up at work and they didn't really stress too much about it. And it wasn't completely unlike her not to call, so they weren't that worried. As they were just about to go to bed that night, the phone rang. They expected it to be Rebecca, but unfortunately it was an official with Disney, and they informed her parents that she was missing. So what happened leading up to this? At 9 a.m. on the 22nd, so the morning that she went missing, Rebecca didn't show up to her 9 a.m. shift at work. She was nowhere to be found. She wasn't in her her room and she wasn't anywhere to be found on the entire ship. The other crew members were trying to contact her over the address system, which is like a PA system in which they can do a loudspeaker over the entire ship. After searching the ship to no avail, the other crew members decided that they would then search the security camera footage to see if they could try and track Rebecca's last movements. They found that the cameras had captured the last time that Rebecca was ever seen, and this was at 5:45 a.m. on the morning that she went missing. The camera pictures Rebecca in the crew lounge area of the ship, and only crew members were actually able to access this part of the ship. And the conversation that she seemed to be having was making her visibly upset. A young man, another employee, then walked up to Rebecca and he seemed to ask if everything was okay. It can then be seen pretty clearly in the camera footage that Rebecca replied with "Yeah, fine," before she hung up the phone. She then walks away out of the camera's view and she has never been seen again since this time. I'd also like to note, because I believe this could be important, but the clothes that Rebecca was wearing at the time that this phone call took place seemed to be pretty baggy. They were oversized and they did not fit her. So originally Disney claimed that the phone call took place on deck 5 and they were 100% sure that this is what happened. After investigating this, it turned out that the phone call did not take place on deck 5 and rather it took place on deck number 1. Just keep this in mind because it will make a bit more sense when I discuss the theories for this case and discuss the possibility of a cover-up theory. So not only did the crew do a massive search of the entire ship, they also had the US Coast Guard and the Mexican Navy search the entire surrounding waters in case that she had fallen overboard. But this search resulted in nothing. They also had a detective meet the ship upon its arrival back at the Los Angeles port. This was 3 days after Rebecca had gone missing because the ship had to go and turn around and make its way back to the Los Angeles port. The detective said that he investigated the entire ship and he spent several days doing this in order to find out what happened to Rebecca. Both Rebecca's parents were flown out to meet the ship upon its return and they also met with this same detective, yet he told them that he'd only spent a day investigating Rebecca's disappearance and that he had only interviewed a small number of the crew members and he interviewed none of the passengers on the cruise ship. He then continued to tell them that he was done with the investigation. Right off the bat, red flag. You're investigating a disappearance and you spend 1 day investigating, interviewing a small number of people, and then you're done. That's it. Done on the first day. I could possibly understand if they had found her body or found something that clearly said what happened on this day, but this was not the case. Her parents, Mike and Anne Maria, were clearly unhappy with Disney's efforts in trying to solve the case. They believe that the company knows more than what they're claiming to. This is because the whole situation seemed a bit strange to them, and I can completely understand why they would think this. When they arrived to the ship, they said that Disney kept them in a car and it had really dark tinted windows and they were not allowed to exit the vehicle until all of the passengers from the ship had exited the ship, and then they took her parents onto the ship through like a little side entrance, which I feel is just shitty police work, to be honest, because no one had even bothered to question any of the passengers on the ship in relation to Rebecca's disappearance before they let them go home. And it also kind of seemed like Disney were trying to hide Rebecca's parents from the passengers on the ship. Overall, Disney were really trying to avoid any adverse media attention that could possibly deter future passengers. So straight off the bat, Disney told Rebecca's parents that Rebecca had been thrown overboard the ship as a result of massive waves. They said to her parents that she was on deck number 5 at the time that this occurred and that she was at the swimming pool, but there was never any footage of this, regardless of the fact that there were security cameras in this area and that could have possibly seen what had happened. In fact, there was no security camera footage recorded from 5:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the morning that Rebecca went missing. So then her family were allowed to go to Rebecca's room to collect her belongings. Upon collecting Rebecca's belongings, they found a pair of shorts that were ripped at the front, which made some people believe that she might have been a victim to a sexual assault or something along those lines. But this obviously hasn't been confirmed and I don't know what happened. Then the captain also said the same thing. He said that Rebecca had been washed overboard and that she was on deck number 5 at the time that this happened, which doesn't even make sense as there is like massive steel walls that cover the entire deck around the pool, and these are above eye level, so it's kind of hard to fall over something that is above like your waist height. And also the security cameras didn't capture any of this footage, so Rebecca's parents did not believe this excuse that Disney came up with. I try and be as unbiased as I can in these videos, but when things are strange and just don't add up like they do in this case, you start to wonder what really happened. Disney has also stuck to this story of Rebecca falling overboard through this whole time. All of the crew members on board at the time of Rebecca's disappearance also say that she fell overboard, and some even say that this is the answer that they are told to give to anyone questioning what happened, which is strange in the beginning to say that, because no one can confirm that she actually did fall overboard because no one saw it and the security camera footage didn't capture this either, nor was her body ever found in the waters. Rebecca's disappearance has actually led to more comprehensive investigations when things like this do actually happen upon ships or anything like that, which is good in a way, but I feel like 2011 wasn't really that long ago, and Disney being such a big company really should have had a better protocol in place when someone does disappear on a ship like this. Like, for one, letting all of the passengers go without asking anyone a single question just seems really silly. Currently, Rebecca has been missing for almost 7 years and the police investigation into her disappearance is still ongoing. So now that I've told you pretty much all the evidence that I could find for this case, let's discuss the theories that I have found. Obviously, the main theory for this case, and the one that Disney and the investigators have really stuck to, is the theory that Rebecca somehow fell overboard on deck 5 and ultimately drowned as a result of this. But what I think is super weird is that Rebecca's family never got a copy of the final report that stated that this is what happened, even though they tried to obtain this information upon numerous occasions. In addition, again, the walls on deck level 5 were super high. They were above eye level, so it made it hard for one to even fall over, let alone climb over the wall in order to reach the water. So originally, the main detective on the case, the one that did a poor job and interviewed like 2 people and then left, he was from the Bahamas. His report was then sent to British detectives, but these detectives have also refused on numerous occasions the Freedom of Information Act requests. And if you don't know what this is, it's basically an act that states that you, as the general population, have the right to request information from public authorities such as the police and things like that. But they denied these requests and they said that it contains restricted personal information that the family can't even know. This information could even be the key to solving this case, but no one is allowed access. And I forgot to mention, Disney claimed that there were a pair of women's slippers that were found at deck number 5 next to the pool, and they said that these were Rebecca's and that they placed her at the pool on the morning of her disappearance. And they really used these slippers as a form of evidence to back up the fact that she fell overboard. None of Rebecca's family or friends said that the slippers were hers, and they claimed that they were actually way too big to even be Rebecca's, and they weren't even a style that she would normally wear. Here again, I'm not trying to point fingers, but it turns out this evidence that Disney had found hadn't even been tested by forensic to determine if they were actually Rebecca's. Eventually, Rebecca's parents hired private detectives to look into the case, and they discovered in 2016 that these weren't even Rebecca's slippers and they actually belonged to another crew member. They found this out because they actually had another crew member's name and room number written inside the shoes. I don't even have words. Like, did they even look into these slippers or not? How did they miss something so simple like that? It was like they just found the slippers and they said, yep, that's it, that's done. The second theory has to do with the phone call that Rebecca was seen having on the morning of her disappearance. Some believe that she was talking to a partner at the time and they were having some sort of relationship issues, which may have caused Rebecca to become visibly upset with what was happening. There was also talk of some sort of love triangle between Rebecca and another female and male, so maybe something was happening here out of jealousy, and this is why Rebecca may have possibly been murdered as a result. But obviously this is just speculation, and this is why it's a theory and it is not confirmed. There is also articles I found that were from Rebecca's girlfriend at the time, and her girlfriend claimed that she was not as happy and carefree as she seemed to be. This woman took multiple years to come forward with this information, so I can't really be sure how accurate this information is. So her supposed girlfriend's name was Tracy, and apparently Tracy had a boyfriend who also worked on the cruise ship, and he worked as a barman. His name was Devon Hyde, and yeah, he obviously worked on the cruise ship as well. Apparently Tracy and Devon got back together, and this obviously upset Rebecca as she thought that they weren't getting back together and that her and Tracy would actually become more serious than what they were. Apparently on the 20th of March 2011, so 2 days before Rebecca disappeared, she was having drinks at the bar with both Tracy and Devon, and this ended up to them all going back to Devon's room together. She ended up wanting to leave at the end of the night, and so she changed into a pair of Devon's clothes before she left the room. From here they claim that she must have committed suicide, which could possibly explain why she was wearing boy-like clothing in the footage from the security cameras, but I can't confirm any of this information obviously. I just thought I would mention this anyway because it's another possible theory as to what could have happened. Another theory is the cover-up theory, and honestly this is the one that I believe the most. So this theory is pretty much that something happened to Rebecca. Either she was murdered, sexually assaulted, or she had some sort of accident, and someone has gone to great lengths in order to cover this up. Some people have even theorized that rather than Rebecca falling over by herself, she was actually thrown over, which could make a bit more sense as to how she fell over a railing that was so high. This can also be backed up by the fact that Disney were claiming that she fell overboard as a result of rough waves, but people have actually done extensive research into this and have found out that there was no rough waves at the time that this took place. Also, if there was a wave big enough that could have thrown Rebecca overboard, there would have been some sort of evidential damage to the ship as well that would support this theory. Also, Rebecca had been working on cruise boats for a number of months at this point, and it was not like she was new to living her life on a boat, and I'm sure she would have been careful while being around the edge of the cruise ship. The police also ruled out suicide as a factor as well, so this could still be a possibility, but her family believed that she wouldn't have done something like this. There is also the theory that Rebecca is actually still alive. Some believe that she may have faked her own disappearance, or that she was somehow kidnapped while she was on the ship. There was a woman who actually emailed Rebecca's parents saying that she was about 85% sure that she had seen Rebecca, although this had never been confirmed, and there has been no other reported sightings of Rebecca since her disappearance. Also, there was activity in Rebecca's bank account that happened a few months after her disappearance, and this cannot be explained. In May, the same year that Rebecca disappeared, Rebecca's parents received an email saying that there had been activity in Rebecca's bank, which could mean that someone had either taken her details and tried to use them at some point, or it was actually Rebecca trying to access her money. Overall, I don't really believe this theory, as one, it would be pretty hard to fake your own disappearance when you're on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean. There's only a number of ways on and off the boat that would be kind of hard to do, and also how would someone kidnap her and take her off the boat without being seen by anyone? The final theory that I found was actually developed by the private investigator that was hired by the Coriam family. He was the guy that kind of went undercover after this all happened, and he tried to talk to the employees and passengers of the ship to see if they knew any other details. He proposed that because Rebecca was such a sport lover, as she'd previously studied sports science and she was super into fitness, that she may have been on deck number 4 and jogging at the time and somehow had some sort of accident with the machine and ultimately resulted in her death. And maybe this accident was covered up as a way to stop bad media attention. Apparently the railing along the side of deck number 4 was a bit lower than the average, and so maybe this is how she possibly fell overboard. But even he said that there is no way of confirming this, and this is just really another theory that he wanted to look into. On top of all of this and all the sketchiness that was happening with Disney and the police, the family has really been left out of the loop in the whole investigation. It is said that they have constantly contacted the police to receive updates on what is happening, but they have just been told that the investigation is ongoing. The police have also been said to fail returning their calls when they have been asking for information. So that's all the information that I have about the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. Overall, this case is extremely frustrating for everyone involved, and because everyone just has so many questions that are still left unanswered. If I have missed anything, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Honestly, I don't even know what I think about this case. It is so confusing. Any of the theories that I discussed are plausible and could have been what happened, but to me the most believable is the fact that maybe Disney tried to cover up some sort of accident that happened on board. But even then, this doesn't even make complete sense. In my opinion, the police did a pretty poor job overall with the entire investigation, especially in the initial investigation. I think that if they did a better job in the initial investigation and they actually interviewed some more people, passengers and employees, that the whole outcome of this situation may have been different. The case may have even been solved, or maybe even just some of our questions would have been answered. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have any suggestions for other videos that you might like me to do, you can leave those in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!